Welcome back, Clone Club, to another episode of our Orphan Black recap. I am Will Link. As you can see, I am alone today. We do not have Megan with us. Sadly, she is out of town, but she will be back next week. So the series of a little looser than they used to be Orphan Black recaps is going to be even looser today because I am on my own and relying on a lot of notes more than conversation. Hopefully, I can make sense of some of these. We will see. Because we are breaking down Season 5, Episode 5, E's for Idle Millionaires. Not totally alone. I do have Helena here with me. Helena, who was not in the episode because this was a Cosima-centric episode in a way that I haven't seen in a long time. This one really concentrated on her. It really concentrated on the science. And because of that, it was a pretty dense episode, which is why I took more notes than usual. A whole bunch of science that I will probably get wrong. But that's why you're here to help correct me. But it was a really great episode. And I knew it was going to be a memorable episode when I saw that Helen Shaver directed it. She's directed a couple of episodes of Orphan Black, including what I think is still the best episode of the series, which is from Season 3, The Certain Agony of the Battlefield, which is the episode, of course, where Paul dies. I still think that's the series' high point as far as individual episodes go, but they still have 5 more to top it, so we will see. So, like I said, it's a Cosima-centric episode, and the opening is Cosima researching the tooth from the ogre in the woods, who we later find out is named Janus. And this scene was beautifully cross-cut between Cosima doing the research and back when she was doing research on herself. It's cross-cut with the sequence of her discovering that she is their property. And she tells this to Delphine in a beautiful flashback. If anything, I wanted more Cosima flashbacks. We delved into Cosima's history more in this, and wouldn't it have been great to see when she discovered she was a clone to begin with, much like how Allison was discovering it in her flashback episode? Who knows, maybe we'll get more of that story. But the flashback that we did get was wonderful. It was sweet, it was sexy, it reminded us why we love Cophine, why we love that couple, as Delphine basically is making her feel better about this, that they might own her biology, but they don't own her spirit and her humor and all of this. I've been saying this for years, though, on the recaps. I don't really understand how, even if they created her, how they can own her. I mean, she's still a human being. You can't own human beings. But I guess I understand how they have patents on the biology. I've always felt like this was something that could easily be defied by the clones, but it's still creepy. It's still creepy to know somebody owns the genetic material that created you. But Delphine calms her down in the flashback, and it's a really great scene. I missed the two of them. I know all of you missed the two of them together, and it was good to see this because it was setting up an episode of, once again, can Cosima trust Delphine, the woman she loves? Because there's a history of that she can't. She was her monitor. So I like that we started off with kind of remembering that and remembering what we had. But while this is going on, Janice attacks someone in the woods. So the people of Revival are not happy. They are going out there. Nobody's believing this bear story. One of my favorite moments was when an older woman in the Revival's like, everyone knows there's not a bear. Because everyone knows it's not a bear. They know it's some crazy Westmoreland experiment that is out there hunting them down. But he's actually, he's a misunderstood monster in a lot of ways, because as we see, Mud has a strong relationship with him. She freed him. She cares about him because she sees him as a person, which is what he really is. Last week we had a lot of fun talking about Mud and Mud's age. Um, a We got a message on it was either Twitter or YouTube from Sylvie Y. Fillion, who who brought up the fact that the actress Janessa Grant is 28 years old. Now look, I know I am getting older, and it makes people who are younger look even younger than they were, but 28 years old, Janessa Grant, once again, if you told me she was playing a 15-year-old, I would buy it. If you told me she was playing a 30-year-old, I guess I would buy it. We still don't know how old Mud is. I don't think it's that important, but Elena Grafton also messaged to bring up that maybe Mud looks so young because of the revival vitamins and anti-aging things that they are doing there. That's a good point, although maybe this episode negates that point because we find out some things about PT that we'll get to. But let's stick with Cosima for now. Cosima is doing the research. She's examining Aisha. She is discovering the gene manipulation that is going on. The gene is Lin28A. And it's basically this is where my science is going to get a little wonky, so stick with me. So basically, it seems like the idea is they have isolated the mutation in Kira, and they're able to manipulate Aisha's cancer, but not necessarily cure it. I'm not quite sure what the difference is there, but they're feeling with the isolating the mutation in Kira, they're able to use Lin28A, or the Fountain of Youth, as they're basically calling it, to regenerate, to heal people quicker, and thus, I guess, reverse the aging process and make somebody able to live to 170 years old. Which I thought was very interesting because it gives us an answer about how some of Kira's magic is based in science, real science. The spiny mouse is discussed more in this episode. So, while Cosima's doing this research and figuring this out, Delphine walks back into her life. She's back on the island. Cosima sees her going in there to meet with Westmoreland. And basically, Westmoreland wants Delphine to help control Cosima a little bit. Now, we've already, unlike in the past where we weren't sure, like, can we trust Delphine? Although, for the record, I've always trusted Delphine. Some of my old co-hosts might not have. I was always on board with her. But Delphine is, we know we can trust her now because we've seen her go to S. We've already seen her on her own working behind the scenes. But P.T. Westmoreland wants her to control Cosima. She goes to Cosima, and Cosima basically invites herself along for what will be the weirdest dinner party they will have ever attended, because someone else has come back to the island at this point, and that is Rachel. And Rachel, who never really kisses anyone's ass, has really been kissing PT's ass, and I have to wonder if there's something up her sleeve, if she's playing a long con on PT, if she doesn't buy PT's nonsense about him being 170 years old. Because Rachel, last couple weeks we talked about, is Rachel been brainwashed? It certainly seemed that way in her interactions with Ferdinand, but now I'm starting to wonder if she's playing a long con. Basically, she is told, and Susan is told, that they gotta play nice with each other. And Rachel goes to have a little meeting with her mom, who she stabbed. And interestingly enough, the roles are completely reversed now. we've been seeing that a lot this season. We talked about it a lot last week, how the mother and daughter figures roles are getting reversed. And this time we see Susan is the one in the wheelchair, and Rachel is the one in control. And Rachel literally sticks it to her. She grabs the wound and basically lets her know that she's in charge. Corporate is now running the science. And Susan basically has to eat some shit here. She knows that Rachel is in charge, but I gotta believe Susan is also playing some sort of long game. I feel like all these people are not necessarily buying into PT's nonsense, have all their own agendas, and we're just gonna have to see in the next 5 episodes how they play out. So, Cosima has decided to invite herself along to this dinner party. She's told she can't. Delphine doesn't want her there, not because Delphine doesn't love her, because Delphine herself is running a long game on this. She's working behind the scenes. But what she does tell Cosima, and I think what she tells her is what convinces her she has to go to this dinner party, is that they are running the tests on Kira. It's how Cosima figures out that they have found a mutation in her, which is the way they will extend life. So Delphine needs her to trust her. Cosima's crashing the dinner party, and when she does, she's told she has to dress for dinner. And this is another one of my favorite moments in the episode, and probably all of yours too, when Cosima walks out wearing that 19th century tuxedo. First of all, she looks great in it. No one's going to dispute that. And it was just another great little character moment, typical Cosima, who she's gonna find her way to defy Westmoreland any way she can. Even though Delphine wants her to play ball, it's interesting. We talk about Sarah is the great con artist, and last week we saw that S is like where she gets all this from. And I'm talking about how I think Rachel is probably playing a long game, and Susan, and PT might be the biggest con man of them all. Cosima is certainly not a con man. Cosima is not good at playing this game. Cosima wears her heart on her sleeve. She always has. Cosima is not a good liar. Which is why she's always honest about things, about why she has trouble playing along when Delphine's just like, you have to play along with this. And, considering Cosima's surrounded by con men and women, she can't play that game. She hasn't learned anything from it, which is both admirable because she stays true to who she is, and completely frustrating because Cosima, sometimes you gotta play the game when you're dealing with covert scientists, Neolution people making the next step in evolution. Sometimes you have to play along a little bit, and Cosima is not good at that. But she does dress for dinner in her way, and she goes down to, once again, a very awkward dinner party, and she doesn't make it any less awkward. Evelyn Bruchot, I feel like, as great as she always is, my favorite thing she always does are these faces when she's frustrated with Cosima. And it's a great bit of acting because it's the face you make when you're totally exasperated by somebody but also completely love them, so you're not going to go against them, but it's also like, we've all been in those relationships with somebody who'll say something like, oh my God, I can't believe she's going on about this again. And I'm sure many people have felt that way about me on weird tangents I've gone on about movies while out on some double date. And I'm sure my date was always like, oh my God, does he have to delve into all this Stanley Kubrick stuff? Nobody cares. Well, Delphine's making those kinds of faces. My favorite that she ever did, if we're going to go back into the history of the show, was when Cosima called her right when Delphine was basically threatening to kill, oh my god, what was her name? Her ex, her rebound ex. Why am I? Shay. Shay, thank you. When she was about to kill Shay, or threatening to kill her, and Cosima called her, and Cosima's like, "Hey, how's it going?" And Delphine's just like, "Yeah, like, what do you want?" Well, she's giving her those faces every time Cosima points out, "Oh, you like a lot of dead things around. You like this, you like that." And Delphine's giving her that, like, "Are we getting into this look?" But something was revealed when Cosima did this. And it's something that, for all we know, Delphine already knows, and Rachel already knows, but Westmoreland screws up. He gets a fact wrong about Darwin, and Cosima calls him out on it. And he doesn't really deal with the fact he got it wrong. He kind of tries to move past it. Let's pretend this didn't happen almost. But this is one of the first clues from his end, other than the logic of no one can live to 170, that he is lying. That he gets a fact about Darwin, his buddy, who he was hanging out with Galapagos tortoises with. So Cosima picks up on this. And once again, she is honest about this. She's like, "I found your fountain of youth. I know what you're doing." And at this point, the dinner party is starting to wrap up because Delphine is being sent away to Geneva to continue her work. As we know from last week, Felix and Adele are also going to Geneva, so it wasn't too much of a shock to realize they're all working cahoots there together. Basically, Westmoreland says, you could say your goodbyes. They go, they talk, and this was the moment where Delphine really put it all on the line. Like, you need to trust me. You need to know what I'm doing here. And Cosima decides to trust her. Cosima is going to trust the woman she loves, as she should. But of course, Cosima is not going to rest on her laurels. Of course, when it is revealed that Janice has broken into the house, Cosima has decided, she's going to investigate this. Now let's talk a little bit about Janice, because throughout the episode, people are hunting him down. People of Revival are hunting him down. And there's a really tense moment where they come upon this shed that he might be in, and they send Mud in first because Mud has a connection to him. And he is not there. But of course he comes up behind and he kills the Revival guy who was hunting him down, who had also shot him. So he's in bad shape, and he basically is going back in the house because he's wounded. He wants to be home. And Westmoreland understands this because Westmoreland basically raised him. He was the first experiment where they were manipulating Lin 28A. He was healthy, but after they experimented on him, he, became the creature that he did. The experiments didn't really work. When Susan and Cosima are locked up together, not locked up, but when they're hiding in the room with Ira, basically some of that truth starts to come out. Cosima's put a lot of things together, and she calls Susan out on all this BS, basically. And she realizes what they want to do is they're going to harvest Kira's eggs. What happened was the healing power that Susan was trying to produce, that Susan was trying to put into the Alita clones, it didn't manifest itself until the second generation, with Kira, and it was unexpected second generation. So now they want to be able to harvest Kira's eggs in the hopes that they can use these genes to extend everyone's life, Westmoreland's life in particular. Although again, Susan probably has many reasons to want to use this, but we start to realize that PT's reasons are very personal. He wants to live. He's an old man, not 170, but an old man. He is dying, and he needs to find a way to keep on going. It turns out his science is sloppy because he's scared of dying. He's at the end of his life. Is he at the end of his life, and this is the only way he can continue to go on. The other nice thing, and I know we're jumping around a little bit here, and I think, apologize, it's just me throwing information at you this week. But the other thing that happened in that dinner party scene that comes big time into play, both in the scene that Cosima has with Susan and the scenes she has with Westmoreland, which I think are two extremely powerful scenes. Tatiana is amazing as Cosima in these moments. But the thing that comes into play in both those scenes is the idea of Cosima balancing the clinical with the humane. And that's something PT says about her when the story of her parents is revealed. Now, this is a big thing that us Orphan Black fans have been waiting to find out more about. We don't really know much about Cosima's parents, how she was raised. And her parents are professors. They live out on a houseboat. They don't know she's sick. They certainly don't know she's a clone. And they are deeply in love with each other. In just this little story that we've been waiting years to hear, we discover so much about Cosima. Her parents are deeply in love with, explains her capacity to love. She's kept them in the dark, again, because Cosima says she hasn't told them, because then she would have to tell them everything. Cosima is bad with secrets. She's not the con woman. Even when Cosima has gone undercover, she's never been able to stay undercover. If you remember when she infiltrated Brightborn, she's almost immediately discovered, and it's not like she tries to play it up or hide it. And the same thing would go with her parents, people she loves and loves her. That if she told them she was sick, if she told them she had left school in Minnesota and was traipsing about Canada and now a creepy Dr. Moreau Island, she would have to tell them everything. They would find out the clones, which would put their lives in jeopardy. So Cosima's really protecting her parents because she loves them. But it's also a little sad because these sound like really wonderful people that she would probably love to be part of her life. And, I keep talking about how I wonder if there's a happy ending endgame here. I wonder if at some point before the season's over, we meet Cosima's parents. Cosima's cured, and maybe Delphine meets the parents. Who knows? Speaking of the cure, Cosima also, let's get to the cure in a little bit. I want to get to the two things I was building up to. This story about the clinical and the humane comes back in the scene with Susan, where Cosima loves science. Cosima is equally fascinated by all the crazy science going on here that Susan has been working on. But the difference between her and Susan is Cosima has never lost her humanity. Cosima still realizes Kira is a person. Sarah is a person. To harvest Kira's eggs, that's just wrong. To take this little girl and do this. That then, her children, her quick healing children would be out there. And it's basically just to see, would Kira's offspring, which then they would clearly do medical tests on, would they have these same healing powers, which then could be transferred to like PT and stuff like that? Cosima would never go down that road. She is holding on to her humanity. And that scene is really brought to a head when, with PT, basically she calls him out on all the bullshit. She says, we know you're not 170 years old. You're dying. You're selfish. Here's your monster. Here's Janice, this thing that you created, this life that you basically ruined through your experiments. And PT's basically like, put him out of his misery. Hands her the gun. And Cosima points it at him because there is something, I guess, humane to ending his suffering. But she can't do it because the greater humanity that she has within her says, I can't take a life. I can't do this. I can't fix this problem for you. We can't fix this problem just by killing it. We have to help him in other ways. We have to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. And then PT very coldly shoots his creation. Which I wonder how hard that was for him, because he did seem to have some genuine affection for Janice. But he's too far gone. He's become too selfish. It's not about the humanity anymore for him. It's about his own personal needs. It's about the science. And I think we really started to see the they called him the man behind the curtain. We've talked about this, but they called him the man behind the curtain. The man behind the curtain was a fraud. His name's PT. PT Barnum. He was one to pull the wool over people's eyes. And Cosima called him out on it. He does not deny it. He does not deny anything she says because it is true. I had mentioned the cure before. And this is the one thing now I worry about. And I worry about plot-wise with the show. I'm so happy Cosima has been getting the cure. I don't think she is cured yet. I'm assuming it's still a process. At the end of the episode, we see she is being locked away in the basement of P.T. Westmoreland's house. And I wonder if this will affect her cure. I wonder if she's going to get sick because of it, that she doesn't have access to her medicine. I hope not, because I'm sick of the Cosima being sick storyline. However, I'm sure if we go back to that, Delphine will ride in like the White Knight and give her cure. Early on in the episode, we see Rachel getting the cure, or the treatment for the cure. And it's a nice reminder of, oh yeah, they can all get sick. Oh yeah, like Allison could get sick. MK was sick before she died. Crystal could get sick. All these other clones that we've never even met out in the world can get sick. So it was a nice reminder of that, and I like that PT's like, you deserve this most of all. That's clearly, look, PT's playing Rachel, and I just wonder if Rachel's playing him. We will find out soon enough, because we only have 5 hours left. He even also says that Leaky was doing a lot of the same research with skin growth, the spiny mouse research. So we end with Cosima being held. She's probably going to be there a little while. Mud might end up freeing her. We'll see what happens. I hope she's not locked up too long, and I hope she doesn't get sick, or sicker. So, the other storyline, which is very brief, like I said, this concentrated on one clone, Cosima, more than most episodes ever do. And I'm trying to think if this is the most Cosima we've ever had in a single episode. I'd have to go back and look at some of those early episodes, but I'm willing to say yes. I feel like we've gotten more Cosima in this episode than we ever have in a single episode. And I love it. It's kind of like we're all not saying goodbye to these characters, but give them all a very heavily centric episode. I'm hoping we get one for Rachel at some point. I would love an episode where we get a lot of Rachel flashbacks. Many of you have tweeted or messaged on YouTube that you've heard about a Helena-centric episode coming, which I'm very hopeful for. One that involves her back in her clone killing days, which at this point would be upsetting to see. I'm enjoying these episodes, but there's still a lot of story to move through. So I'm curious how much we'll get as far as flashbacks go. I would have liked some more Cosima flashbacks, but you never know what the next few episodes hold. So the other storyline going on is Sarah, and it's basically Sarah gets a nice day at home with her daughter, which, might not be the most interesting storyline, but it's really nice to see. They really need that because shit's going to start getting crazier. And she basically is letting Kira in on things. She's letting Kira in on the fact that her and S are putting the pieces together. And, you can only really let Kira in so much. She's a little girl, and I like that her letting her in evolves into them just playing with their toys, and giving each of them representing one of the sestras. Now, it's interesting because Kira is trying to explain to her how she still feels things, and Sarah's feeling it too. And that's the one part that science hasn't explained yet. It's explained her healing abilities, but it hasn't explained how she has this connection to them, how she knows things. And Sarah even says, Kira, you saved me when I was on the island. We keep saying how Kira appears in dreams and visions, and it's not just a dream Sarah's having, because Kira basically acknowledges this. Kira is also learning to grift. She's learning to be a con woman herself. And basically they're going to have her, they're going to try to figure out a way that she can manipulate Rachel maybe a little bit. Because Rachel is a little scared of her. The elephant being scared of the mouse, which was a fun little analogy. And the other thing going on is that S is trying to connect the dots with PT. We kind of, by the end of the episode, know he's a con man, but S is trying to really prove it. She's looking at... S is going to want to expose him to the world, because right now it's just Cosima's word against PT. And by the world, I mean his followers, because the world doesn't really know what's going on with PT Westmoreland. It's all very shady. There's basically no record of PT after he disappeared in the jungles until Neolution starts getting talked about in Cambridge in the 50s. And then they track down where Cody and Susan Duncan, Dr. Cody and Susan Duncan met in the 70s. And now she's looking for a connection between them. Probably the man who stole P.T. Westmoreland's identity, And it'll be interesting to see what she uncovers. But at the same time, it doesn't matter. We know he's a fraud. You're a fraud, P.T. Everyone knows it. The one other thing I would like to bring up before I get to some of your questions and comments that you tweeted at me this morning is Ira. Ira, at the end of this episode, starts to glitch. And you see the panic on his face when he knows he is glitching. I feel bad for Ira. I feel bad for Mark, who is still out there. It's going to be interesting to see if they're able to cure him as well. I know the show and us as fans are more invested, obviously, in the Sestras, but it'll be interesting to see if we're able to give Ira a happy ending, that he walks away from this cured. The look of a great little bit of acting by Ari Millman when he realizes he's glitching. I hope they do cure Ira. He's been a little, the woman he loves and his maternal figure, Susan, has really not dealt with it, has not dealt with finding the cure, but maybe now that he starts to glitch, she'll make that a priority. So I want to go on to my phone here, not being rude. I'm going to see all the things that you tweeted at me. One person last week, also on YouTube, 1961 Blanchflower, wanted me to also point out from last week, when we were talking about all those cons, the similarity of the con against Elizabeth Perkins in last week's episode, and the original con that opened up the series, of Sarah stealing Beth's identity. Both people that were getting conned were Elizabeth's. They both had to get things from their purse, and it was a fun little thing we didn't mention. And it's true, everything's coming through full circle when it comes to these con women. So let's look at some of these. Julia Nunez, Nunez Juju on Twitter, who has been one of our biggest fans and someone I always love hearing from, says, finally, Cosima calling out PT on being a liar, but we'll see. I think he's a liar. Between the S storyline and this, I think he's a liar. But she also says, why can't Ira give the clone phone to Cosima? I need Sarah and Cosima to talk. Yeah, Ira, put these two in touch with each other. You need to do a little bit more than just say, like, your people send their regards, or whatever he said. Your people are thinking about you. Also, Julia says, also, they need to stop killing people in front of Cosima. I need her to keep some of her mental health and humanity, like she said. Yeah, Cosima has seen some of the worst things on this show. Cosima's really been through it. And I wonder if more people will be killed in front of her before this is all said and done. Okay. At MC_C, that's CEI for that second C, says, they dropped the question about PT. I don't think this guy is the original PT. Which I think you're right. Obviously, I think you're right. We've been talking about that. And they also say, and now we know there is no magical Kira. I still push back on that. They still have to show me the science of why she feels connected to him. We understand the science of her healing. Now show, and I hope there's a scientific answer to this, show me why she's connected. So until then, I will still be using the term Kira magic, and I'm 100% sure Megan will back me up on that when she is back next week. Scott and Jupiter, another person I always love talking Orphan Black with on Twitter, says, Kira is playing everyone. She will destroy them all. You know what? She might. She basically refers to her as the mouse that the elephant of Rachel is scared of. And, maybe Kira is playing some con too. Some long game on everyone. And Kira will end up being the child who saves them all. It's very interesting to see where, because it's also, I'm still putting more trust in Sarah and S, the adults, but we'll see what Kira ends up doing. And Amelia Crawford, says, the number one way to know that Delphine can be trusted, Mrs. S sigh of relief when she saw Delphine in her kitchen. Yeah, if S is happy to see her, we know that she can be trusted. But there was one more bomb dropped in that scene, and I was saving this for when I read that tweet. She's not the one who led them to Cody. It's revealed that there's some other deep throat source that led them to Cody. So the question I have for all of you is, who do you think that can be? My money is on Ferdinand. Obviously, she wouldn't tell Sarah she's getting information from Ferdinand. Ferdinand loves Rachel, hates Neolution, wants to pull her out of Neolution. So I could see Ferdinand feeding S information behind the scenes. The other thing with Ferdinand is he's the one who originally captured Cody. He got in that car and goes, "I'm Ferdinand." He would know where Cody was. So my money's on Ferdinand, but at the same time, if they're working with Ferdinand behind the scenes, or at least if S is, I still don't see how this ends well for Ferdinand. He's committed a basically unforgivable sin. He killed MK brutally. So I wouldn't be surprised if Ferdinand is the one feeding him information to try to save Rachel, if him getting involved with S will eventually lead to his death, that Sarah will take him out, or somebody. Or who knows, maybe Ferdinand and Rachel end up living in that cabin by the lake that he always wanted to grow old. Well, he didn't say grow old, but maybe they'll grow old together in a cabin by the lake. Most likely, I think the series ends with Rachel and Ferdinand dead in some way, but maybe in a way that takes down Neolution. Or maybe this whole time I've been wrong. Maybe this series will end with an epic battle between, like, Helena and Rachel will die. Who knows? I doubt that, though. I still think in the next 5 episodes, Rachel will end up doing something to redeem herself enough and maybe die in the process. I've been saying this for years, and I'll keep saying it until it doesn't happen. So that's it. Thank you for bearing through 40 minutes of just me. It was a little tougher on my end because it's always better when you have someone to play off of, and it's more easily for me to take a peek at my notes when I'm doing that. You also get to see, though, a little bit more of my home in this episode, and if you've probably noticed, up here is the Entertainment Weekly that Tatiana Maslany was on. I don't just frame magazines that I like. I met her at the Cloneversation, and Tatiana Maslany signed that, so I keep it framed on my wall as a part of my Clone Club love. So that's there in the background. Next week, it looks like we get a lot of Crystal, and that's something we have all wanted. I assume we're not going to get much Crystal as the season goes on because there's a lot to wrap up, but it looks like next week we're going to get a healthy dose of Crystal. I am very excited to see what new things she has stumbled upon. So, until then, you can follow me on Twitter at TheRealWillLink, and also listen to my podcast, Will Sean Podcast, where we interview fun and interesting people. So, until then, I will see you, and Megan will also see you, next week.